welcome back to what has been the most wonderful show this morning. We are getting positive energy from every source we plug into today, and this is just on another level. As Mandela Month continues, we are celebrating South Africans whose work is changing the world around us. Now, one of those individuals is Professor Anthony Figaji, a leading pediatric neurosurgeon at UCT and the incredible Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital. Very good friend of ours. His pioneering research into traumatic brain injuries in children has just earned him the very prestigious Harry Oppenheimer Fellowship Award and could potentially halve child brain injury deaths in Africa. Halve them. It is incredible. Today we're going to dive into his journey that I kind of feeling is just getting started, the science behind his life-saving work and why this research matters for South Africa and the world right now. But can we acknowledge the award first off with a round of applause from our non-existent studio audience. I'm sorry, we do try. Our poor cameramen have to let go of their cameras to applaud because it's warranted. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. Much appreciated.
I know, and we were joking, that you clearly can't do this kind of work for this sort of validation because there is a lot of work that goes into it and it requires you to really push boundaries. But how does it feel when your fellows, when the industry around you, when that strategic network that you need to engage with you and buy in, validates the work that you do on this level? How does this feel?
Well, I mean, of course it feels great because it's a validation of a lot of work by many people, in fact, over a really, really long period of time, sometimes without that reward. The main reward, of course, is that you get the capacity to make a difference.
To help young
and so that's what, so it feels good, yes, but the real satisfaction is that it gives you greater capacity to make a difference.
So in this case, how does it unlock the next phase of what you've been doing? And I know it must be difficult to see the wood from the trees because you are in it every day in a practicing space. So you're living it with live patients every day. But talk us through why you received this award.
Well, there are several levels. So the project really is about trying to understand the brain and making a difference. But the context is broader because the context is about children. And so one of the things that we're campaigning for is, like Nelson Mandela would say, you have to prioritize children.
That's where it starts.
And it's not only because they're a vulnerable population. Everybody kind of gets that. But in an African context, people don't always realize that there are, in fact, more children and adolescents in Africa than there are adults.
Wow. That's a burden on social development structures.
And we know much more about the adult brain than we do the childhood brain. And that's true for half the population. And that means that if we don't know enough about the childhood brain, we can't treat it effectively.
We are underserving more than half the population.
Absolutely. And so it's not just about doing right by children, it's about securing our future. It's estimated that in 10 years' time, there'll be more young people entering the workforce for the first time in Africa than the rest of the world combined.
Wow.
So if we don't get it right now,
it's a gateway.
It's the future of our continent at stake.
And I love the way you're looking at that because you have to be so practical and hands-on with, I mean, we're talking about quarterback stuff when you're operating, when you're in that space, but you're also constantly looking at the bigger picture. Why brain injuries? And obviously the research is vital. We need data to be able to understand that. But what's the turning point here? Why has this garnered so much recognition? What was the big positive find? And I know I'm asking you to sum up a lot of work, but why are we so excited?
Well, firstly, it's the scale of the problem. So trauma is a massive problem for children and adults, at least young adults across the world. So we're not peculiar in that regard. So over the age of 1 all the way to your early 30s, the most likely reason that you will die or be disabled is from trauma.
It's trauma. Okay.
And the majority of that is road traffic accidents.
Wow.
And so that's true in the US as well. 60% of childhood deaths are due to trauma. And about half of those are due to the injury sustained by the head. The difference in Africa is just the scale of the problem. So for every child, their risk is about anywhere between 8 to 12 times higher than a similarly aged child in Western Europe. Wow. And so the goal of the work is to try to reduce that. Of course, if you can prevent it, that's always the goal.
Yeah, for sure. But at least people are talking about it like a thing now.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're never going to completely prevent it. But if you can't prevent it, you can still do a massive You can still make a massive difference in the outcome by trying to understand what's going on in the brain. If you can understand that, then you can develop therapies and interventions that make a difference to outcome and at least halve the risk of dying.
At that critical gateway. And so much of work, you must feel terrified and inspired every moment of the day because there are these critical gateways. Get it right, we are literally transforming the situation. Get it wrong, and you know you're going to lose a young child. So bless you for taking this on your shoulders. When we talk about the data that is being gathered here, you've got real-time data to dip into when addressing a new case. How does that play out? What's next? Because I would imagine this has unlocked some doors for you now.
Exactly. So the problem with the brain and why we haven't made as much progress as we'd like over many, many years is that it's just a lot more complex than anything else. So we all know that it's the most complex organ in the known universe. And there's a study, in fact, in my Oppenheimer's memorial speech, I referenced a study that showed in a single cubic millimeter of brain tissue, so a small fragment of brain tissue, there's as much as 1,400 terabytes of data. So that's the scale of the complexity. And when that's injured, when that's disrupted, all of that complexity comes to the fore. And then you're struggling with two problems. One is the brain is difficult to see inside the brain, firstly. And if you could see inside the brain, you are confronted with all of this complexity.
Where do you begin? Yeah.
So we've tried to approach it as a big data problem. The more information you've got, and we've got tools to get that information.
And now we've got big number crunches as well and data machines.
Exactly, and you have to be able to decode it. And the idea is to be able to decode it and then develop therapies. Now, there are two layers to the therapies. One is, in the best case scenario, you've got all the bells and whistles, all the tools, imagining the future of brain injury treatment. But then it's also the recognition.
Maybe.
But even in Cape Town, and that's the goal, we can be better because we've got more experience.
Exactly, and a bigger working model.
But then the second thing is also recognizing that the majority of these kids are not going to be in those places. And to develop therapies that are simpler, but more widely generalizable and will work wherever you are.
I love that. Echoes of the core. This is amazing. I think my little brain is probably smoking a little bit here, thinking about what you must think about every single day. The implications, the knock-on effect. But the joy here is you get to see it in those little faces, in the parents' faces. So on behalf of all of the parents, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is massive. Will you take the morning off and go and have a breakfast or something? Are you even allowed to do that? It's probably going to go straight to a lecture and then straight to an operation. No, we absolutely support you 100% and are just blown away that you've got the recognition you need. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is how we celebrate Madiba's legacy. Not through big shows, but in the everyday moments within our own spaces. How can you become the tip of the spear in this way? This is one man backed by an incredible team and organization in a tiny little country on the tip of Africa that could potentially change the way we address all children. That is massive. Thank you, Prof.